Mac's gonna let us know when it's time, right?
Yeah.
Chair is noisy. Yeah, just tell me when. I've got the timer. Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversations while exploring the quantum possibilities. And tonight is no exception. You know, when I was growing up, we used to talk about things that go bump in the night, and ghosts were very ghosty, very Casper-ish, and ghosts were almost like a taboo topic back then. And things have come so far now that we talk about the veil lifting and being closer to the other side, whatever that other side is, being closer to the spirits and to the places that they reside. So do they bring the places where they reside with them when they come visit us? I mean, so many questions. But our guest tonight is going to shed a lot of light on what's going on. And Augie, will you tell us about Summer?
Yes. Yeah, we have Summer Bacon returning to Broadcast Team Alpha. And we just couldn't wait very long. It was about a month that she was here last time. So this is going to be so good. I want to say a few things about Summer because there may be somebody out there that really doesn't know her much. But for 26 years, Summer has been a spiritual teacher and a trance medium. She is an author of several books and has done ghost hunting or ghost busting, whichever term that is. Also remote viewing, and has physical visitations from an extraterrestrial. Her mission is to help demystifying mysticism. How about that? So people can actually empower their own relationship with spirit, the universal consciousness, God, if you like. So today she'll spend an hour with us demystifying what we all are wondering about. Because Summer had so many experiences, and she has some personal experiences that I think she will talk about. So we're going to talk about ghosts, spiritual beings, disembodied souls, and spiritual pranksters. Yeah, they're out there too. So welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be back. You guys are so much fun.
Yeah.
It's a real honor. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Definitely. It's going to be fun and a little bit scary.
I don't know if it's going to be scary. Well, before we move into the topic, which I'm excited to do, I just want to thank everybody. Thanks for following us home. We were out, I don't know, out in the desert doing things for a little while, for about a year. Now we're back. It's so good to be back. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the loyalty. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your super chats. We are so grateful. And as always, we're just so glad that you're here with us. So I'm sorry, guys. I wanted to throw that in real quick. So let's talk about this stuff, Summer.
I think that's wonderful. I'm so glad that people are listening to this, because that just shows that people are awake and wanting to know more and excited about it. And, and we're learning in this world that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's not about being afraid of ghosts. It's about exploring who we are and our relationship with the universe and all the other dimensions that exist. So, I was 11 months old when I had my first awareness that I was a spirit in a body. And my mom was taking a picture of me with one of those old Polaroid swinger cameras.
Yes.
I had no idea how I got out in front of the house. I was standing outside in front of the house. And my mom told me later that she had, got me up from a nap to take a picture of me and my brother. And for those who are are used to cell phones and that sort of thing, back in the day, this is like 1960, 1961 maybe, we didn't have cell phones. So when you took a picture, it was a big deal because they were expensive. So, so when my mom took a picture of us, it was a moment to remember. But I was standing out there and my mom's like, "Smile, Summy." And I was like, and she said, "I'm going to take your picture." And I didn't want her to take my picture. But I couldn't articulate that. I tried to tell her, but all she was hearing was baby talk. And she snapped the photo of me and my brother. And at that moment, I said, I just remember there were, how to explain it, just all these beings around me, like above me. And I said, okay, I'm going to find out what this truth thing is about once and for all. And that was the beginning of my journey. And then, I throughout my childhood and everything, I saw spirits, I heard spirits. I thought it was normal, frankly. My parents, thank God, never locked me up in a loony bin or anything. They just said, "Oh, that's interesting." And they asked me to tell them more. And so it was a very normal experience for me to see spirits and hear spirits. And as I got older, I found that a lot of people didn't see spirits and hear spirits. And I hear this from a lot of people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who had these experiences as children, shut them off, maybe because of their parents, or because, like me, went out into the world and found out this is not a normal everyday thing for most people, or that they'll at least talk about. And so you just kind of shut it down, don't talk about it until you get a little bit older. But fortunately, again, I had parents who encouraged me to just embrace who I was and the things that I saw and experienced, and not to be, afraid of it. But when I was in my 20s, I did get a little afraid because it was just constant. So it's, so that's sort of a little bit of my background anyway, as far as, my journey. And then ultimately I ended up becoming a trance medium and allowing spirits to come into my body, to use my body as the instrument through which they speak. So that's kind of the ultimate point of surrender. Yes. And the ultimate point at which I was able to overcome my fears, knowing that I'm totally safe, knowing that God's got my back. Love is the answer, love is the winner in everything. Yeah. And this journey here on earth is about embracing the other perspectives and learning from them. Not that you have to believe in them or put them into action, but it's like just listening to each other and learning from each other is such a big part of the experience. And that's what I learned through channeling probably thousands of spirits during the course of my 26-year career, which I did not want it. I did not want this as a career. Let me make that perfectly clear. Yeah. I went into this kicking and screaming. I went into this because I wanted to know God in spirit, and I wanted to know that I was safe. And so that's what it taught me. But So again, that's a little my background.
Summer, what do you make of many of us, back in the late 50s, the 60s, having these predilection, would that be a good word,
Sure.
toward seeing spirits and sensing spirit and
Yeah, well, and I think when you say that, Nori, I think it speaks a lot to, at least to the United States, or to not the Eastern religions, but like the more westernized people,
yeah.
where it was not as acceptable. This is a part of who we are, to see and hear and feel spirit, to be intuitive, to be psychic. We have all of those gifts. Each and every one of us has those gifts. I just believe that. I just believe it's like some people develop their muscles in their arms, and they become weightlifters, and some people don't. And we're not taught that it's acceptable in our society. So here the people back in the 50s and the 60s, it seems to me anyway, that there was a lot of regimentation of, culturally speaking, of how households should be run, and the father, the mother, the kids, and all this other stuff. But there's a lot of things going on that nobody talks about, that people were living their lives in a natural way. And I was given that opportunity. I was born in 1960, and I was given that opportunity to live my life in a very natural way. I was never scolded for being mystical. I was never, chided for that by my parents or anything. And, they kind of raised their eyebrows sometimes, but they were also very, very mystical in their own ways as well. So I was really fortunate, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I wasn't raised in the normal everyday sort of environment of my friends that, had parents who, did things in the way you were supposed to.
And don't play with the Ouija board. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no, my mom, it's funny. I mean, my mom and dad were really supportive of me in my experiences of seeing things that went bump in the night, and they would ask me about that. And one night I woke up. Oh my goodness, I was maybe 5 or 6 or something. I can't remember what age. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was having some kind of a memory of having died in a fire, and to me it was very real. And I was pounding on the wall. And that it was a wall that actually adjoined their bedroom. And I was like, fire, 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 fire. And I was experiencing this, and they came in, and they didn't say, oh, you're crazy, what's going on with you? It was just a dream, because it wasn't just a dream. And my mom knew that. I mean, she could see in my eyes and the way that I was acting out about this, that this is no dream. And this is not I wasn't faking this. And this is a past life memory. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so I was very supported in all of that.
I'm trying, and I'm trying to think back to I wonder how it was, because my life was very extreme, right? So here I'm going to Catholic school, going by all of those very stringent rules, yet, I have this communication, I see things going on, and in the back door, my dad slips me a book, How to Change Your Life Through Psychic Powers. I still have it.
Wow.
It is so old, Summer, it's falling apart. But he's like snuck me this little book, to support what we came here with. So really interesting.
Well, in my work over all these years, I've had many Catholic clients. And the thing is about that is that you're halfway home. You might have all these rules and regulations, but hey, you believe in spirits.
That's
you believe
true.
in angels. You believe in God. You believe in Jesus. You believe in the invisible. Come on. This is, you're halfway home already. And now it's a matter of understanding yourself in that. And God bless your dad for that, man. What a great, beautiful thing that he gave that to you, because that's essentially what my dad did for me as well, which was to encourage me in opening up my abilities and telling me that I wasn't crazy. And but I've seen this with many Catholics, many Mormons, and I would say and a lot of the people that I've known in the Christian community, of which I was at one time a born again Christian for a very brief time. I would say are the ones that are more afraid of it all, more afraid of spirits and things that go bump in the night, which I don't know, I can get into that sometime, but it's very different. It was very different for me,
So Summer, where are they? Are they here and we just don't see them? Do they live here? I mean, do they live in my living room, or like where are they?
Yeah, well, the way that I would answer something like that, just to be on on our human plane, is we're talking on Zoom.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty extraordinary, right?
Yeah.
But it's not this thing on the screen. It's this frequency that's being projected.
Yes.
That's creating this thing on the screen that we now can see because we now have the technology and the awareness to do this. And so from my perspective, as somebody who sees spirits and hears spirits and that sort of thing, we can change our own vibration to be able to see into the ethers, to be able to, if you look at the room, look in the air, and you really just stare into the room, into one spot in your room, you may start seeing a little bit of movement there. That's energy. And that energy, if you keep continuing to look at it, and maybe think of your dearly departed mom or dad or something, and with love, and you connect with this, you might actually see them take form in that. But that's because you're raising your vibration to match theirs, so that there's some sort of a merging of those two things. Just like, I'm a channel. There's electrical channels and energy channels that create this Zoom thing happening right now.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I mean,
that's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just for people to, but where do they live and where do what are they doing? It's so different for each one. The way that I would, again, try to put it into a perspective that a lot of people could wrap their heads around if they're really new to all of this stuff, is that, we live on this planet Earth. And, I grew up in Los Angeles and Granada Hills, California. And some people grew up on other parts of the planet, in other cultures and in other ways, with other belief systems and that sort of thing. Certain things that I don't think I could particularly comprehend unless I were dropped right in the middle of it to go, wow, this is amazing, which is why a lot of people travel on the planet, right? Yeah. Well, I think that all of those different places that we live are different dimensions. You yourself are a dimension unto yourself. You, Nori, have had your own life. Augie, you've had your life. You've had your own perspectives, your own experiences of existence. And if we were to engage more deeply and I were to, focus upon you, then I could learn more about you. And I don't think it's any different with spirits who are in other dimensions. There's lots of ways in which people leave their bodies. Sometimes they leave very afraid. They don't know if there's an afterlife. Some people don't believe in an afterlife and suddenly find themselves like, oh my God, what is this? I'm still here, but I don't have a body. And sometimes that scares them, just like it would scare somebody to go into a new neighborhood or a new culture or a new church or something. They go, I don't understand this. And they get scared and they freeze up. And I think that's how some spirits get trapped, because they just don't know where else to go. That's why I've worked with, I've done ghost busting, I call it, just because that's the old fashioned term, maybe ghost hunting. I wasn't hunting ghosts. I was actually trying to help them be free. And so I encountered ghosts in homes for example, this one gentleman who was in this house, I didn't know who it was. I always told people, don't tell me anything about what's happening in your home. I don't want to know. Just want to walk in. Found the guy. He was messing with the electricity and turning things on and stuff. And even while I was there. And when I talked to him, he said, this was my house. This is where I died. I don't want to leave here. Aww. And he said, I'll stop messing with the electricity if the new owner will please give me a chair and a glass of water by this window that had the most beautiful view. Aww. and let that be my part of the house, because he didn't want to leave. And so the owner complied, and all of the electrical activity stopped. He wasn't ready to move on. He was very, very, not a tormented soul or anything. He just loved his home. It was in Sedona, and he loved Sedona. He didn't want to leave. So he just stuck kind of close to home, And And so to me, I equate that with the way that we are as humans on earth. Some people never leave their hometown. You know, some people go off and explore and never see their parents again, even though they love their parents. They've got to get out there and explore, you know. And so there's lots of different experiences. Many years ago, one of the first spirits that I channeled after I started channeling Dr. Peebles, meaning that Dr. Peebles is a spirit who died in 1922 at the age of 99.9 years old. And he walked the earth, and he wrote books and that sort of thing. And he was also U.S. consulate to Turkey. He speaks through me. And but when I first started channeling him, then he started my training, which I didn't realize that was training, by allowing for other spirits to come through me. And I allowed for that to happen. And one of them was my friend's brother-in-law, George, who my friend, this is a childhood friend of mine, Brenda. She did not know that I was channeling. I did not know whether she would freak out if I told her this. Yeah. So one day she called me and said George had suddenly passed away at the age of 40. Well, I knew George when I was little, when I first met Brenda and I was 12 years old, and George would be at her house, and he would always come out when I would come over, and he'd look at me, and he had these penetrating eyes, and I couldn't go into the house till he went into the house. And there was something like he was reading me, you know? And so I told Brenda what I was doing, that I was channeling dearly departed loved ones. So she and her family and George's son invited me to come to Colorado to channel George. So I did. I channeled George. Well, George talked about the fact that, you know, because they couldn't find any medical reason as to why he died. And George said that he just left his body. Wow. And because apparently I didn't know anything about him because I wasn't around him except for that short time and when I was a child, but we never really spoke or anything. So he said, I left my body and I was having so much fun out of body. I just figured I'd go off and just explore other dimensions. And so he got so far away from his body that he was out of body and he was just exploring other places in the universe. Well, they said, oh, that's exactly who George was. Apparently he went on a road trip, never called anybody, before cell phones, decided to go on a much longer road trip and didn't return for 3 months because that's just the way he was. So, you know, so there's lots of different ways in which people leave their bodies. And, you know, and that's just one example, but he was great. And when I channeled him, he was really fun.
Aw, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, he was great.
I just have to recognize Dana Shriver right now. She just put up a $50 super chat. Dana, thank you so much. Dana said, here's to raising our vibrations. P.S. I grew up in Granada Hills as well. Small world. Augie and Nuri, fantastic guest and show. Love you. Love you too, Dana. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I went to Granada Hills High School.
Granada.
Yeah, graduated in 1978. Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah. As you started to learn more about these disembodied spirits, did you get to find out what kind of environment they would live in? Did they feel like they were perfectly safe out there? Or were there others with them that maybe just kind of were hanging around them? Or what about their daily life on the other side?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's different. It's just as it is for, like I say, on Earth, you know, it's different for everybody. Some people feel safe in their environment. Some don't, wherever they go or travel or whatever it might be. And so this is just an extension of our lives here on Earth, where we go off and we travel. I think the majority of people, when they leave their body, if they understood it, they would realize that there's always going to be somebody there to meet them on the other side. And, you know, family members or spirit guides of theirs who've been working with them, because this is a school here on planet Earth that we are on, learning about love, how to love and be loved. And we have our lessons here, and then we leave our body and we go to the other side. And it's like going home. It's like, okay, you know, class is over, the school year is over. We go home. we say, you know, they say, they talk to us and tell us, well, what did you think of that? And we have a conversation about it. We do a little life review kind of thing, and then decide whether we want to come back for another year, and, you know, or whatever it is, you know, like as you would go to college or whatever, or to school in any way. So the lives on the other side are so different. I've had so many different experiences in channeling spirits and also in seeing spirits. Some of them are very adventurous, like some of us are, and they like to visit different planets. It's different than it is on Earth, where they're not encumbered by time and space. There is no time and space. It's sort of like, if you think of it, you're there. You're, you know, and this is sort of what I've experienced when I've been out of body, is like, I can direct myself to some place by thinking of it, and it doesn't take much time at all. And, you know, it's a thought form really, where I just go, oh, you know, I'd like to go see how my dad is doing. And that might be a 20-minute drive, but it takes a nanosecond to get there when I'm out of body. It's just like, boom, I'm there. So that's their experience of self is very, as much as our experience of self is, I have a personality, you have a personality, we have our desires, our likes, our free will in doing things. Spirits do that too. They have their schedules, they do their things, they have the things that they want to accomplish. Dr. Peebles pretty much resides, what he says is in the 16th dimension, and is very much in a place where he's working with planet Earth and with people on the Earth. He loves people. He loves to help them. He pretty much, think of him like a boss who never leaves the office. He's always in the office, and he's got a huge staff, which is the band of angels, who runs around and does all the other work to get information to him so that he can do his work with planet Earth.
So he's a workaholic.
Yeah, he's kind of a workaholic. Yeah. He never gets tired. He loves it. It's like when you love what you do, you just don't ever get tired of it, right? You just keep going. And, you know, and then there's spirits like when I was in Gettysburg, and I saw these, I was with my boyfriend. He was my boyfriend at the time. And it was October, and we were in this clearing in a campground in Gettysburg. And he went off to get some beer. It was Sunday. We were the only people in the campground. And he's like, finding beer on a Sunday in Pennsylvania and Gettysburg was not going to be an easy chore. So he went off to get beer. And it was like 1984. And I said, I'll set up camp. So it was, you know, nightfall. And I look up, and there's, in the clearing, there's the edge is all these trees. And I look up and I see these guys who are, you know, like soldiers with bandages and blood and all kinds of stuff. There were like 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember how many, as clear as I could see you know, standing in the room with me. And I went, oh, darn it. You know, he's not here to see the show. I didn't know they were going to have a show. And so I looked over my shoulder to see if my boyfriend was there. And I looked back, and these soldiers were gone. And that's when I knew, oh my goodness, those were spirits. Now, what happens with those kinds of spirits? I'm not really 100% sure. I think in some cases it's a bit of an imprint, sort of a recording of something that happened that I was able to see that's playing over and over again. And sometimes I think because there is no time and space on the other side, when people die, a lot of times they get kind of trapped in this little loop, wanting to get out of it. Again, no different than we have something that is horrible in our lives, people who can't handle the death of a family member, and they just relive it over and over and over again until finally they're free from it. I think that can be the same situation with spirits as well. I think more so that I don't think those guys that are standing in the clearing, those soldiers, I don't think there was their soul was the soul is smarter than that. It probably got out of here. But what you're saying is an imprint in our time and space that is there because of the extreme energy of what they went through was so strong, it just got embedded in
in
Yes.
the space here.
Well, yeah, and I think if you think of it like if you have a bad memory of something, I just saw something about it. People say you have an embarrassing moment in your life, and then all of a sudden you relive it, and you don't like, why am I having to relive this thing that happened when I was 6 years old, and I'm still as embarrassed as I was when I was 6 years old that I did this stupid thing. And they call it re-embarrassment, which I think is really kind of funny. So, I mean, I also wonder about whether those guys standing there, if that is one of their memories, they may have moved on, but they may have carried that with them, and they're reliving it still, just as we can move. I am a true believer in reincarnation. So we can move from lifetime to lifetime and carry our memories with us. And just like I did with that, having, died in a fire and having that memory when I was a little girl of having died in a fire and reliving that.
Yeah.
And eventually that little girl gets healed, and maybe that memory gets erased finally,
Yes.
I want to mention one thing. I know you've written several books on this, and in those books you got a lot of these stories and a lot of the experiences. And for you out there now listening to this, go and visit summerbacon.com, because you're gonna love it.
Thank you. There's lots of free material there that you can read and listen to, and I got my book there, and it's my pleasure to offer as much as I can to people. Yeah.
Have you run into something that was so scary that you split and got out of there?
No, not really, except one time with that was with UFOs, which I'll be talking about next week, I think. But UFOs coming down my hallway, and I left my body. I was so scared. I was like, I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with this. But no, I had one experience though, Augie, that was just, I mean, it consumed and still continues to be a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was awakened in the year 2000, early 2000. In the middle of the night, I was married at the time, and my husband and I slept in the living room on the floor. And because we had a joint, family, his son took one bedroom, my daughters took the other bedrooms. And so we slept in the living room, and I was awakened night after night by the most profound, bizarre ghost encounters that I've ever had in my life.
Wow. Where
I was literally physically being poked so hard that it hurt, and my toes were being pulled and yanked physically. I mean, I was wide awake. It woke me up, and I would hear these burly men, and I could feel them and see them around me, poking me and pulling my toes and laughing and calling my name.
Huh.
And wow. I was, surprisingly pretty feisty, spiritual person, that I got up, went to the bathroom, and I see this one guy in the hallway. He was as wide as the hallway. He was tall and burly with a big beard. And I looked at him, I said, do you need to move out of the way? I said, or I'll just walk through you, which I did. I walked through him. And then I'll be a little frank here, but I'm in the bathroom, right? And I look over at the doorway, and I see these three heads of these men looking at me, and they're laughing and pointing like, ooh, we see her, private parts, And I look at them and I'm like, hey guys, you know what? You're dead and I'm not. So get out of here. I was really, straightforward with them. But this happened so often that one night I woke up and I was just like, stop. And I remember my husband grabbing me, and he could tell there was something. He grabbed me, held on to me, and he just started yelling, get out of here, leave her alone. Well, my dad was doing a play in Sedona. My dad is an Emmy Award winning director, and for the 1984 Olympics. And he had created this incredible play called The Chicken Man that was here in Sedona, that was supposed to save our local theater because it made plenty of money to do that. And there was an actor in the play named Jerry. And I wanted nothing to do with Jerry. My daughter was one of the leads in the play because Grandpa was the head of the thing and loved my granddaughter, put her in there. My daughter, and put her in there. And so I went over to the theater, and my mom says, come here. You got to meet Jerry. I'm like, I don't want to meet Jerry. Well, I shook hands with him, and he says, I wrote a book. I said, I know, I'm going to publish it. He goes, I know. That's our first conversation, first words out of our mouth.
Wow.
Well, he had given the book to my mom, and my mom lost the book. And the book was called Now That I'm Dead. So Jerry wouldn't tell me anything about the book. And I went home, and I had all these visions. It was about 5 pirates who died. And it's quite a story. But anyway, I called Jerry, and I described, because these pirates were visiting me, and I described them all. And these were the guys who, before I had met Jerry, had been visiting me at night. And his book was a true story about finding treasure on the New Jersey shore under his house with his father. And when they dug that up, all these pirate spirits came active and alive. And I found out later through a lot of things that I can share, but it's not enough time, that I was part of that lifetime. And I was actually the girlfriend of the captain of the ship, of the pirate of the ship. Well, so this ties in with, the spirits and the worlds they live in. These guys, it's been 300 years, and they're still not, out of these other dimensions. They are still in their piratey state of mind. And one of the young pirates, he was, I channeled all of them. You can find that on my other website called sellersandceilings.com. You can actually hear me channeling these pirates for Jerry.
Very cool.
One of the pirates, Jonathan Heffern Jr., he was afraid that God was mad at him. And he said this through me. And he said, do you think that God is mad at me? Because the pirates, as he says through me, had taken his manhood. And he was afraid that God might be mad at him for that. Aww. And Jerry said, no, God would never be mad at you, and there's always hope for you. And Jerry was an evangelical Christian. So here you've got a channel and an evangelical Christian working together on this thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so Jonathan finally was able to go, kind of cross the border to the other side and be happy and warm and with his mom again. And I could feel that when I was channeling him. It got so warm when he started to realize that he could go somewhere else. Before that, he was just trapped and cold. I mean, there's a coldness when a spirit is trapped. It is a chill in the air. I mean, when I channeled spirits who were trapped, because I didn't not channel spirits because they were trapped. I channeled anybody and everybody. I could feel this icy coldness. Yeah. And one of the pirates came through me and said, I want to, he said, I'm thirsty. He goes, I'm thirsty. He wanted a beer, and Jerry said, we don't have any beer. We have water. And he's like, So he couldn't, he couldn't drink, he couldn't eat. He'd been trapped for so long that he couldn't have any of those things.
Wow.
So that's just a whole other, side of the where spirits go. I mean, there's so many possibilities. But again, look at our planet and how many different ways and different lifestyles and different experiences that people have, and some that we don't even want to sometimes even think about.
Right.
Because they're so horrific.
Yeah.
Do you believe also that this concept that I'm kind of leaning on, that nobody dies alone? There's usually someone there to kind of meet them and say, hey, you graduated, congratulations, now let's go home. Now, I'm playing on words here, but something like that.
Yeah, I would love to believe that that's true for everybody. I'm not so sure, just because of different belief systems. Just people who really, really dig in their heels and do not believe in an afterlife at all. And they do not believe, they believe there's just this one life. They believe they're going to go off into a, just like a dark wasteland or something, or whatever. I don't know what, some people think, but so I don't know that I believe, what I can say is that I believe that there is somebody for everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
But
I think
whether we acknowledge them, that's up to us.
I think too that the people that absolutely believe that there is nothing afterwards, they're going to be so surprised, and they were going to be totally confused. They have no clue of what to do, because this is not supposed to exist.
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
Yeah. It can be a shock, or it can be elation of knowing that they're free and that they are loved no matter what, which is what I believe, that there's nothing to fear about the afterlife at all.
No.
I mean, we're loved. I remember Dr. Peebles once said, we all have at least one guide with us at all times.
Yeah.
And he said, and some people will say, well, I don't want to have a guide. So they'll incarnate and they will not have a guide, and they don't last. They can't survive without at least one guide with them.
Yeah.
At all times. So you're never alone. That's the greatest illusion of separation, is that you're ever alone in this life, or even during death. But again, it's where you put your thoughts and that sort of thing.
Let me run something by you real quick. I have a friend that was in Vietnam. He was a sniper for the army, and he had several kills where he shot them from a mile away, and they had no clue that he was even there. And that he considered that murder, and he was so scared, or he still is scared of dying. Yeah. But he had a near-death experience. That changed it all. But he's still not totally good with it, but it changed it all, because he found himself in total love on the other side. There were people there that took him places and showed him wonderful things. And I mean, he considered himself a murderer, but there still was no punishment, as the church will tell you there is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I had a very, very good friend who passed away some years ago, who was also a sniper for the Army. So, and he awakened to that late in life. But yeah, with things like that, it's hard to explain to some people. It'd be very hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around this, but if you believe in reincarnation, and if you believe that this is a school, we can join with other people and say, like, simplify it. Augie, Nori, me, at some point, maybe before we incarnated, we said, hey, I'll see you on Earth. And we're going to do this show together, and we're going to bring this message to the world. And we're going to do it for whatever reasons. And it's not just to bring the message to the world. It's for our own personal growth. We're all growing here, all three of us, during this process, as well as the audience. Yeah. And we're joining together in a relationship that we're developing that's really beautiful together. So people who have come to the planet and get involved in war and that sort of thing, I believe there is some sort of I kind of shy away from that term contract, but there is some sort of an agreement that we're going to do this thing together. A lot of that might be based in karma. Maybe I killed you in a past life, and I say, could you just do the same thing to me, And so we come back and we're in war, and you look at me and you go, oh, I don't want to shoot you, but I will, because that was what you want me to do, so we can kind of make it even Steven. And so there is purpose and value to all of these things. I do not believe that there is judgment on anybody for anything that anybody does. Humans judge. God does not. God just loves. That's my perspective, and I will always adhere to that. Just like with the pirates, when I channeled the pirates, I came to love them. Even though they did horrific things in their life on Earth, I found out how vulnerable they were and what little boys they were, and how they had terrible fears and terrible expectations about the afterlife and all sorts of things that held them back from being free. They're still captive. They're stuck because of their own thought forms and because of the thought forms around them that were fed to them about they're bad, but we're here to grow. We're here to grow into our fullness and into our most loving self that we can be, which sometimes is really not easy.
Yeah.
Really not easy.
Yeah.
I had an experience with my mom. My mom has come to me many times from the afterlife, and she's shown me that for her, life has been just a continuation of what she loved in life on earth, which is more music. She's together with a lot of our dearly departed musician friends, creating even more music, doing artwork and that sort of thing. And on Mother's Day this month, I was very sad in the morning, and I was sitting and having my coffee, and I said, I miss you, Mom. And I wasn't thinking about Mother's Day at that point. I said, I miss you, Mommy. And I'd say that a lot, ad nauseum. I'm sure she's like, could you just shut up? I got it some, But I have a lot of guilt and shame around just, I wish I could have done more for her as she was going through her process of dying and that sort of thing. And I know I was a really good daughter, and I spent tons of time with her, but I should have spent more, So there's always those things that nag me.
Yeah.
And I said, I miss you, Mommy. And I looked up at the ceiling, and I saw her. I mean, I see her face, and holographically, I would guess is the way you could describe it, but it was big, and she was just smiling down at me.
Aww.
And I said, I love you so much. And she said, well, problem solved. And I knew immediately what she meant by that was, there's no need for the guilt, no need for the shame.
Right.
All we are here to do is to love each other, to learn to love and be loved, and allow for that to be problem solved.
Yeah.
All those things we think matter, we did wrong or whatever in the past, if you awaken to the love, that's what this journey is about.
Mm-hmm.
And also there are many stories about the ones that come to get you and bring you back home after you drop the body is usually their mom or their parent.
Yeah, a lot of times it can be. It can even be animals, pets, that sort of thing. I mean, there's a zillion different scenarios there. A zillion. I think it's really, again, who you are really attuned with, who you would really like to see. And sometimes, it can be, in the case of certain people, a parent that they did not necessarily get along with. But when they leave their body and they go to the other side, that parent is there to greet them. And there's a tremendous healing that happens. Yeah. So I know that people, when they leave their bodies and they go to the other side, a lot of times there's a debriefing, because sometimes it's a shock. And you're taken by your guides or family members or whatever, and sit you down, give you a nice cup of tea, let's chat, let's debrief you from that. And you're like, oh, whoa, man, that was quite a ride. And so you can kind of get your bearings when you get over there. So there's a lot of support if you are open to that on the other side. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about that movie Ghost. Did you ever see that movie Ghost?
Oh, yeah.
With Patrick Swayze and
Yes.
Whoopi Goldberg. That was a really good movie because there's a couple of things I don't particularly agree with, but I love the channeling that was in it. It was before I was actually channeling. But I know that, Patrick Swayze's character in that movie, he stayed behind by choice. You remember he had the spirit world opened up to him and beckoned him to come on in. And he was like, no, because he wanted to take care of and protect his wife, who was Demi Moore in that movie.
Yes.
And he chose to stay behind for that reason. And I do think there are spirits who do that quite often. For not forever. It doesn't mean the door is closed forever, but it's just, they had your opportunity to get through. Now you've got some work to do, and you're choosing to stay in this other dimension and not go through your full transition yet. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what a lot of us do, again, relating it to life, what we do in life, and choosing to help a parent and deny ourselves our own life, in terms of the things we would like to do because we have an elderly parent we're taking care of or whatever it might be, it's what we choose to do.
Do you think that may be a mistake to, let's say, you drop the body and you're very much close to, and you love your family, and so you want to hang around, so you miss the opportunity to go home. And do you think maybe that would be a mistake? Just go home, and then, because you can always come back later on after you know your way home. Do you think that could be something to that?
No, I no, I don't think it would. I don't think it's a mistake. It's a choice, but not a mistake.
Yeah.
It's more of a, you know, it's sort of like you have opportunities in your life to do something with somebody, and you say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go do the thing that I'd rather do, which is to go be happy, instead of, stopping my car and helping a stranger on the side of the road who's just been in an accident. That's not easy to do, but it's sort of like you have choices. Neither one is better than the other. It's just a decision that you make. But then maybe later you say, well, I can't go back now. That accident's all cleaned up. So I missed my opportunity of helping the guy, get out of his car and giving him a little encouragement or whatever. And but it doesn't, it just is what it is. I don't see any of that as being a right or a wrong. It's just decisions we make. And, but yeah, I mean, ideally we'd all feel really like hunky dory and great all the time. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's a matter of what perspective we bring to the things that are happening in our lives. I wouldn't trade for anything some of the things that I've been through that have been absolutely horrific, difficult and painful. But I learned so much from it.
Definitely.
I wouldn't trade for anything.
Just circling back a little bit to people coming to get you, I'm listening to you guys and flashing back to working in the burn and the trauma ICU. So, we had a high mortality rate there. We didn't want to, it wasn't like hospice. We didn't really want people to die. We were all about the, doing CPR and keeping people alive. And so back then, when a patient would go, I'd walk in the room and he'd go, I'd like to introduce you to my grandmother. And I'm like, there? And they're like, yeah, there. Right, of course. Hi, nice to meet you. And, I'm a young nurse and I'm like going along with this. And then there were other times when that happened. So I started putting it together. Okay, when people see, loved ones, it's not going to be that long before they go. So we would always joke, have they seen Elvis yet? Elvis. So if Elvis left the building, we knew that they were going to die soon. But in hospice, now fast forward to, 2020, 2019, in hospice, you wait for those conversations. You can't wait to document when a patient says, oh, look, I've got plane tickets and I've got cruise tickets and, and I'm going and they're here. And you're like, okay, and it's so refreshing.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It is. It's so beautiful. It is so special. And I only wished that my nursing career could have been longer so that I could have pulled together like my many years of documentation, documenting when patients saw somebody coming in and how long it really took. And but that
wow.
Because there's a definite thread there that I am sure you can make a nursing diagnosis out of. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the nursing industry and the is really waking up to all of this as being reality. I mean, this is very, very real. When my mom was on the verge of death, she was laying in bed and she became very childlike. Aww. And my daughter and I were there with her. And my mom suddenly looks up and she's looking out in the center of the room and she's just mouthing, yes, I'm ready. Aww. And my daughter said, she goes, Grammy, who are you talking to? And she said, I'm my mommy and my daddy and Jesus and Dr. Peebles.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, they're all there. And she said, yes, I am ready. Aww. And my daughter said, Mom, if I wasn't a believer before, I'm a believer now. And that changed her life because there was no question about it. that my mom was seeing those people.
Yes.
And,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
yeah, a former father-in-law of mine was bedridden, and I've been married a few times, so, but and I was in Oklahoma, and he was in bed, and nobody was there, and I was taking care of him and giving him food and stuff, and he started talking to somebody in the room, and I said, "Who are you talking to, Delbert?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm talking to my dad." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, he's telling me I did all right." He said, "I did all right with my son," which was my husband. He said, he said, "I was pretty mean to him, to my son, but my dad tells me I did the right thing, because he tells me that's why I came here. I was going to be his best friend, because I had to show him the way. And so I had to be tough." And I was like, whoa, this is way before I was channeling that I saw this, and he was talking to his mom, or to his dad in the room. And it was so beautiful,
It's so beautiful.
And that just reminds me of another thing. My mother-in-law, she was a, Southern Baptist, and I was already open to spirit and all of this. And she one day she came to me and she said, and this was she's in her body, but she said, she said, "I don't understand it. I like you, you like me, but we're so different." But she said, "I just think I just figured it out." She said, "What you call spirits, I call angels. So we're pretty much talking about the same thing." I said, "Exactly." And from that moment forward, we were like besties.
Aww.
Yeah, she was really cool, but it was so sweet, and she was like in the late 70s at that time. And she was, really, down home Oklahoma lady who had never been exposed to anything like me. but she was open to it. So,
Such good stuff.
Yeah, I think most people have those kinds of experiences, unless it's a really sudden thing, maybe. But I think pretty much everybody has these kinds of experiences.
I think a lot more people have the experiences than talk about them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting to that point where people are saying, I don't care anymore, which is really kind of a nice thing about social media and that sort of thing, where people, kind of expose themselves maybe a little too much, sometimes too much information or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that all the superficiality is going to start to crumble away, and people are going to really start to expose themselves with the real crazy wacko stuff that happens for real. That's not made up. This I'm not making any of the stuff up that I'm telling you here today. I know this is real. Nobody can change my mind about that. I've been there, done that, saw it. But I think it's beautiful, really, isn't it?
It's so special. It's so special and so precious. And even Augie, when it happens suddenly, part of the research back in the burn trauma unit, so many times the wife is sitting by the bedside of the husband who crashed his motorcycle into a tree, and she said he knew he was going to have an accident. He knew this was coming. So a lot of us have that impression that even though we eject quickly, we do kind of have an idea that something's going to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. A gentleman named Don Pendleton, who he and his wife Linda wrote a book about Thomas Jacobson called, who was the man who channeled Dr. Peebles for me, and the book was called To Dance with Angels. And they became very good friends of mine. And Don was the father of the pulp fiction genre of writing. And the day he died, we were over there at his house and had dinner. And I'd known Don for a long time, like I say. And when I left that night, he came up to me and he gave me a big hug, and he kissed me, not in a sexual way, but just kissed me on the lips. And basically said, "I'm here for you." And it was so amazing. I mean, he had never done that before. It was different. And he even catered to my children. And he said, "Let me help the kids pick up their toys." Aww. And he'd never done that before. And then that night he passed away, and that was that. And when he did, he came to me, and I was just devastated because I loved him so much. I mean, he was much older than me. He was such a father figure. And he came to me when I heard about his death, I started just no, and I started spinning. I don't know why we spin sometimes when we hear about death, but I started spinning, and then he put his hands on my shoulders, and there was this warmth, and he said, "Oh, Summer, you know what this is about."
Aww.
I told that story at his funeral, and I can't tell you how many other people in the audience were like, "Yes, yes, yes, that happened to me too. Yes, yes, yes."
Wow.
It was incredible. It's just,
wow.
There's so much beauty to all of this.
There is.
If we're open to it and not afraid of it.
Yeah.
Fear is the virus that goes around and has been around forever.
Yes.
And you got to get rid of that fear and get into love. And then we have this deeper connection, deeper understanding, deeper awareness, and more of a sense of control over our lives by surrendering into it.
Yes, that's perfect.
Absolutely. Gosh, this got so interesting and so nice to talk about these things, but now I see that we're down to the end of the show here.
Yeah.
So tell people where they can get a hold of you again, and how to connect, and tell us a little bit about your books.
Yeah. So you can go to summerbacon.com, summer like the season and bacon like the food.com. And my book is The Cellars and Ceilings of Summer, which is my autobiography, which is free as a PDF download on my website, or you can go to amazon.com and buy it there. And there's also a book of channeled material of Dr. Peebles that has been out for quite a while called This School Called Planet Earth, and that is available on Amazon. And there's lots of free downloads of MP3s, and there's lots of downloads you can buy as well of MP3s about the current times that we're in. And, so whatever you choose is great. I'm just thrilled to be able to get the word out. And I appreciate it so much, you too. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Summer is so great.
I love this platform. It's just beautiful.
I can't wait till next Tuesday. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
with Tom on with you.
Your extraterrestrial experiences.
Yes.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Summer, for being with us. And of course, this is Broadcast Team Alpha, and we have been talking with Summer Bacon about her wonderful experiences. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.